On the go, still healing. Almost there. First time that I'm wearing these new steel toes. I had exactly the same ones during COVID for 5 years. I'm auctioning those ones. Today is a special holiday. Very new Publik rally for the O's, celebrating on the 93. And just got a new phone number. Grateful, thankful my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. And it was a snowstorm on this 8th of April. That's why I didn't film earlier. And this one's gonna be shorter than the 2+ hours regularly because I changed my mind to go from the mountain because I got the big backpack on and I found on special goods on special, and I think I got deposited like $44 from the government of Canada, so that was a little bit of extra, almost 45 I believe. For my calculations I got to double check, so I took a 40 and spent 30 of it. I said if the price is gonna go up, you know, I gotta spend on some food, so there we go. And I got that backpack, I got the cover. Thank you to my anonymous friend. If I make $1 million, $1 trillion, $1 billion, I'm gonna give half to my anonymous friend, who wasn't my friend because of the money, and the backpack is on the heavy side now. Got those 50, I believe 50 pounds or so, estimated around 50 pounds. And we just got hit earlier. That's why I didn't start filming, because I filmed some rock and roll song which you're gonna be able to see, but that's what it is today, you know. It was a snowstorm out of nowhere. It came, I was just about to film. I get out of the store, I was about to film, that I see it was full of snow. It snowed like snowstorm for like a good hour, you know, like a good hour of big snowstorm. And the cars, I saw some cars sliding and almost accidents a few times, and people almost slipping, you know. It came out of kind of out of nowhere, but it's this April, you know. Snowstorm is on that rock and roll through North Strong and Free. We gotta add some love, freestyling rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. Gotta get that gratitude, and still healing. Still got a bit of a sore throat, some running nose, some cough. This is on my, if it continues, tomorrow is gonna be on the 10th, and then Thursday on the 11th day, but slowly and gradually. But I've been working out, training, exercising a lot. So working out, training, exercising overtime every time is my medicine and therapy of choice. And I clocked in today, I'm 4 hours and 18 minutes. Wait, let me calculate. Yeah, about now 2 minutes in the video. Yeah, exactly. 4 hours, 18 minutes and about 45 seconds. 45, well now every second click clocks, but 4 hours and 18 minutes, more than 4 hours and 18 minutes on these new steel toe boots, although I stopped for like 5 minutes. So really I gotta subtract about 10 minutes because it was the customer service, and good customer service I got today. Got a new number, not so bad with the cost and the validation to get my new protocols and to get a new, not a new phone because I can't afford a new phone. I am financially stressed, but I got a new number and I did a little bit of the transfer for the phone. So that's what I click-clocked with that, and that's what I click-clocked for the LOV now, you know. Always for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, farmers, grocery store clerks, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. That's what I gotta do here, and here I am, you know, for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all involved in the production, distribution of food, and the public workers there changing the aqueducts. They got big works going on, and you see those little flowers? They got those little flowers going over there, but now they're covered in snow back again. Back in that snow, although they blossomed a bit, they're back in the snow. A little bit of those, what are those exactly? Gotta double check because they look a bit on that purple side. So anyways, be careful on the prudent side. I gotta go shovel some snow in my neighborhood, you know how we do it, and that's what we gotta get done. For the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, firefighters, split your legions to our family, independent aspie artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, and yours truly, mystic, believer in reincarnations, was born in the USA 3 times post 7076. To my brothers and sisters in the USA and fellow Canadians, let's fuse, unite in the Democratic Republic, the public-private partnership, my dream. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational collective, and that's how I gotta get doing. And I gotta wait for the car to pass and gotta be prudent here because it slides, you know. And that's what we gotta get doing for my fellow senior citizens, and that's what we gotta get doing for the workers, butchers, bakers, and the nurses and the doctors and the grocery store clerks, and that's what we gotta get doing with the transfusion and transmission. And sometimes we gotta work on the inner things we have as a collective here, diverse, for my brothers and sisters, like this neurodivergent. You know, I live with a condition called Asperger's, aka HFA, high functioning autism, which is a neurological mental divergent condition, which of course I live with on a daily basis, meaning that I am different, and it's just that my brain is made different, and I'm part of this tiny minority who's known as HFA, high functioning autistics, Asperger's. I'm an Aspie, so you know, for the past more than like 42 months I've accepted it because I've been diagnosed for years and years and years, and I rejected the label, the stigma, but because it's not a mental illness, Asperger's is a neurological mental divergent condition, and just makes me predisposed to special interests, and those special interests I'm engaged in on the daily, you know. And my holy trinity is geopolitics 24/7, geopolitics 24/7, geopolitics, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, dancing is my favorite sport. Love to dance, love to dance and rock and roll, and here I am, gotta give some respect to the public workers of the past who changing some aqueducts. We gotta get that DRT, debt refusion theory, and implement across the collective North American civilizational complex for the mass rebuilding of the aqueducts, the sewers. It takes brains and muscle. You know, we got a lot of rust, we got a lot of problems, and we got a lot of infrastructure to be rebuilding. That's why Canada, United States fused via my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, which is fundamentally a call for a PPP, public-private partnership, across the collective North American civilizational complex, across North America, to do on the go, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the XYZ, you know. So it's something which I gotta be mindful of, and mindful of to be on the rocky side of things and appreciating civilization, which is a privilege to have the electricity, the running water in the aqueducts and the aqueducts, you know, and the workers here who do the drill, you know. It's something which we gotta appreciate, you know. All the workers of the public workers, and those that we gotta get doing for the public workers and their works, which we gotta implement the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange. Somebody wearing that red is pledge your allegiance to our family. And here, you know, we're French Canadian, we love that French, and that's what I gotta get doing on that rock and roll side of things. And being that I'm an Aspie, of course we gotta get it on the Asperger side of things, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And sometimes we gotta get on the transmission and gotta get on that love it to do on the lovey side of things, and we gotta get it on the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get it for the steel and the metal, and of course my protocols, the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE is something which we gotta be putting on the transposition of the steel and the metal and all the work that's being done and conducted here. The workers in the public, they gotta do a lot of labor, a lot of work to be done, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get doing on the XYZ. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So that's what we gotta get on transposition, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. That's what we gotta get it on the go. And we get it on the love. Gotta get it for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, and all those informations and that we have, you know. I can meditate a little bit, but now I put this in the geopolitical context, you know. Gotta put it in the geopolitical context to meditate about all the things that are happening now across the North American Collective, because my specialty, my kingdom, my domain is of course geopolitics, you know. geopolitics. So that's what I do on the XYZ, and that's what I gotta get doing with that, and that's what I gotta be on the transversal side of things, and that's what I gotta get doing with the LOV side of things, and that's what we gotta get doing on the love, you know. See, all this work we gotta get doing here, and all the work which we gotta be doing, we gotta be transposing, you know, and doing all the work which has been done, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, you know. So imagine all the work which is being done now, and all the work which we gotta be doing, you know, for the aqueducts, for the sewers, for the bakers, for the butchers, for the nurses, for the doctors, for the grocery store clerks, for all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. We gotta get on that transposition thing, and now I put this into a context of geopolitics, and of course, gotta salute all the work which is being done, you know, because we got the running water, and all across the work which has been done in the 20th century. That's all we gotta get doing with that, and that's all we gotta get on that transposition, you know. So something which I gotta be doing, you know. So yeah, that's all we gotta get doing on the assembly line here. Always meditating, you know, for the butchers, the bakers, and all those, of course, involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. All those now across the North American Collective, getting on the east side, west side, north side, south side, angle side, and it's something which we gotta get doing like that, you know. So I gotta turn it on the face here, on the left, and then be prudent, you know, because I got it on the prudent side of things, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know, on the sidewalks. On the sidewalk, you know, getting on the side, and just gotta be mindful that it's slippery, and just like in driving, I got the added responsibilities, obligations, and responsibilities now to stay on the right side for my safety, security, somebody else's liberty, because I've been more on the 4 hours, and I gotta give some rock and roll for the for the public workers. Public workers, rock and roll for the public workers of the collective North American civilizational complex. Rock and roll, you know, for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the grocery store clerks, you know, all those truckers on the road gotta be prudent bus drivers, and the teachers, and all those going on that buy sell, you know. The bakers, give some charity to the firefighters, public workers, millionaires, Wall Street, you know. Millionaires, Wall Street. Finance some of those public workers to pick up the garbage, the compost. Today is Tuesday, so yesterday was the compost and the garbage, so today is just on that mild rock and roll, and grateful, thankful. Encourage you all to work out, train, exercise, support the dream. And I say pledge your allegiance to our family, support the dream, the North American Collective Civilizational Complex, the North American Civilizational Complex, you know. Something which we gotta be doing on the XYZ, and gotta go get in on that, you know. So, like I said, my brothers and sisters, Canadians, the king is absent, and I'm not gonna vote. I said I'm not gonna vote because, you know, the king is absent, and getting another prime minister who's gonna pledge the allegiance to the king of England, that gotta go. The king is absent. He's I don't know how was the last time king was here in the True North Strong and Free, which we gotta add some love, just like my brothers and sisters where I used to be serving in the United States Armed Forces post 76, 2 times in different past lives, incarnations, and of course served in the same United States Armed Forces twice post 76, and that's all we gotta get doing on the XYZ, and that's all we gotta get doing on the love. Same army, 156 years apart, served in the same United States Armed Forces. So I say the king is absent. It's time for the Republic, you know, for the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the UE, the Universal Exchange, for the CIT, for the SSD principled, security, service and defense, Dragon Army, the 51 or 63 legions, mobilizing 1% of the Canadian and the United States population, maybe from existing security services to be a new institution for security service and defense, SSD principle across the collective, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Only strictly for defense, security, and service. And let's build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, 11 times bigger than the Harbor Ball, aka Blackout Ball, where the Super Bowl was played. The Harbor Ball, Super Bowl was played, and back in my 49ers lost by 3 points, but it was the Caesars. She's the Caesars Superdome now. Caesars used to be called something else because, you know, it changed a little bit of those names as I changed my name, Adrian Hana Dragon, although still got to get on that money because it costs money to change your name. And here I am, grateful, thankful, although financially stressed, and got some $40 plus over budget. I'm still in the red, but I got it a little bit to get a little bit of bananas. We're on 39 cents, so got some bananas, got some 99 cents, got some 99 cents, got some 99 cents and bananas. I got some bacon, it was $5 from $9, so I saved $4, like 44 cents. So I'm grateful, thankful for the bacon, for the something which is a different type of cola. It was believe it was imported, but it was 99 cents. So I said, it was imported. Still fighting some illness, sickness, but I fight it the best way I know how, with working out, training, exercising, and staying fit and active. Lost between 80 and 93 pounds, you know. I was depressed, suicidal a few years ago. I crossed Canada coast to coast. I crossed Canada coast to coast. Back in 2017, August. Went to BC, British Columbia, then went in September to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that event really transpired. Changed my whole life. So I changed my whole life back then. Before that, I was depressed. I was suicidal. When I crossed Canada coast to coast, I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, Quebecers, our family, North Americans included. Let's get rid of that border. That border gotta go. It's time for the fusion via PPP, strong PPP, public-private partnership. And you know, I have been no fan supporter of Donald Trump. I have been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border ever since 2018 when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. And I am calling for the building of the North American Imperial People's Coliseum to be a structure 11 times bigger than the Caesars Superdome. Used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz Arena. Before that, it had another name. So throughout the past 50 years, it changed the name like 3 times, and now it's known as the Caesars Superdome in, you know, New Orleans, Louisiana, where the Harbor Ball, aka Blackout Ball, Harbor from the surname Harbor Ball. That's the surname. And well, my 49ers lost by 3, but please, NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, reduce the cost by 44.9%. 44.9%. Let's build the 4. You know, on the Canadian-US border, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, where the Harbor Bowl, aka Blackout Bowl, one of my top 5 Super Bowls, was played, and when my 49ers lost. And make it for Sportis in perpetuitis. To have sports in perpetuity. 24/7 universities, high schools, the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, and to be for sports and fitness and more. My workout training program system, and especially my favorite sport, dancing and gymnastics, and all sports 24/7 for the 21st Century Canada Joint, where the first inauguration event is going to be Dragon versus Storm. The first inauguration event is gonna be Dragon versus Trump. The first inauguration event is gonna be Dragon versus Trump. You know, that's how we're gonna get it in, and I will also to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple. the Forgotten Goddess Temple. That's what I will to Bill credit the Forgotten Goddess Temple with trillions of kisses. But I got credit from the Forgotten Goddess. I credit me surviving COVID 5 years ago. Had COVID between February and March. I thought I was gonna die. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. It was really like death, pestilence, and disease. It was really like death, pestilence, and disease. I know when I say death, pestilence, and disease. On my enemies, please. Sounds like a hardcore trash death rock and roll. I was singing that rock and roll, but the way I say this, death, pestilence, and disease sounds like a trash metal, hardcore death metal, like nuclear war, World War III. And back to my work as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, of which I take great pride in, because that's one of my special interests. And I have actually predicted, and I got proof. I have proof. I do have proof. 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 In October, November 2019, I had predicted an international conflagration. I had predicted a World War III scenario back in 2019. So I've been type of in a World War III type of scenario, type of mode ever since 2019. And consequently, I created a workout training program system, which I created to go hand in hand with that scenario, that World War III scenario, which consequently I just discussed. Which I continue to discuss, and calling for the implementation of public-private partnership, implementation of the Operation Northern Scorpio, based on my total mobile defense theory, T, total M, mobile D, defense T theory, and those 4 acronyms become 5 when that theory is implemented into action. The total mobile defense theory system. When the S is added, the S for system is added, that means when it has 5 acronyms, that means that my theory is being implemented, because we're living the times which I have predicted in a general manner back in 2019. Consequently, we see more espionage, sabotage, open for sabotage and espionage across the collective North American civilizational complex. And I have, of course, total mobile defense theory system is something which cannot be, of course, discussed overly too much, but that's what we gotta get doing with that, and which cannot be discussed overly too much, because it's matters of national security, and not national, but North American collective, because I am a North American, Quebecer, Canadian, North American, Canadian, Quebecer, North American. Canada, US views for public-private partnership, best if we do a great census, and get rid of the border, get rid of the border, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, get rid of the border, and focus on the ports and the airports, and do a great collective census to see everybody who's been living here since 2020, February, March, and now since 2017, and whatever the case may be, when I cross Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, when I cross Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, back in 2017, and now it's that 2020, now it's 2025, April 8th, celebrating that first day on the Book of the Law. It's first day writing on the Book of the Law. I just wanted to make for my fellow citizen, because we both had like backpacks, and said I'm just gonna traverse on the side for us to be safe, because I'm pretty wide with the backpack, so that's how we rock and roll. Androgynous, pansexual, aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, I take a lot of pride in my geopolitical work, and with all my difference and lack of certain abilities and skills in the social communication, the social mannerisms, and whatever I go with the social manners, and whatever the case may be with the social manners, which we gotta get around the dictums. But with all that, I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, among the best, creme de la creme, as the expression goes, and to the fact point that I have proved, that I have predicted the current situation which is unfolding now back in 2019 in October, November. Consequently, I created a workout training program system designed, made, and created to go with such a scenario, and I performed more than 372 sessions of that workout which I created, which is titled officially General War Integrated Total Body Training System. It's kind of a long technical title, because that's what it is. It's meant to increase the general overall fitness, and it's meant to be It's meant to be a workout training program system which requires no equipment, which is made for an emergency situation, for a World War III scenario, in other words. So I've been on that World War III mode since 2019 / October, November. So more than 5 years, because I predicted what's happening now in a general manner. And I have proof. I have predicted to make a general overall summaries that I said due to the fact that many nation states, civilizations and regions have not been able to resolve their conflicts from the 20th century. Those conflicts are going to recommence, re-begin and restart in the 21st century, which Russia-Ukraine is an unresolved conflict from the 20th century. Israel, Palestine, Hamas, the Middle East, however we want to frame it. Israel and the Arab world conflict unresolved from the 20th century, and potentially on the horizon, Taiwan. Taiwan is known as the Republic of China, while the People's Republic of China is known as mainland China. So that is another conflict which has not been fully resolved. So it has more details to it, but that is the general manner, of course. That is the general manner. That is the general manner of which, of course, we have it to go on, the general manner of things. That's what I have predicted, and that's basically what I have predicted. International conflagration, which I said going to start in the coming 7 years. So that was 2019, and we're on that route. We have been for the past more than 44 months now, as I'm calling for the building of the 44 tunnels. The number after 43 before 45 is 44. To build 44 mega tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, based on one of my theoretical papers titled somewhat the Public-Private Partnership, Citizen Integrated Public-Private Partnership for the construction and the building of the 44 tunnels, to get it on the construction and be implemented in terms of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex is, and whatever the case may be, and that is, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex and the underground Montreal Village with that, Montreal Underground Village, which was built in the Cheyenne Mountain, So that's why we gotta build 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. That's what we gotta build in case of a thermonuclear war, to get it on the LOV side of things in case of a thermonuclear war. Because those ICBM rockets can land from Russia, taking in Moscow. You can land all the way further deep into Manitoba, right away into the middle, because they can travel 10,500 kilometers, which from Montreal to Moscow is 8,500 kilometers, and 8,500 kilometers, and that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with the go, and that's how we gotta get on that doing with the LOVs, YZ, and that's how we have to be consequently building those tunnels, 44 across the North American Collectif in case of a thermonuclear war, because those ICBM rockets can land here. So I've been in that World War III mode since 2019. So technically theoretically, theoretical techniques, they can travel all the way, because Moscow to Montreal, so to take the plane from Moscow to Montreal, Moscow, is about 8,500 kilometers. If the ICBM, standing for intercontinental ballistic missiles, turn your head left and right before you cross the street, those ICBM rockets can travel 8,500. That means that there's still about 2,000 left, so they can still go further west, because if they're shot from Moscow, that's east. The finger's pointing east now. Now the fingertip is pointing north, the fingertip is pointing west. Now the fingertip is pointing south. So if they come from the east, that means they can still go all the way to Ottawa, all the way to Toronto, past Toronto. It could go deep all the way to the prairies from Moscow. Further east, because from Moscow to the east of, let's say, to the newly acquired provinces from Ukraine, or from that side, can go even further. Now it's theoretical techniques, TT, what I call TT. Can they travel that far? Well, it seems that they can. NATO NATO accorded, and they said, yeah, they can actually travel. These are NATO information. So North Atlantic Treaty Organization is my theoretical paper to put into the implementation for the building of the 44 tunnels. To build for the 44 tunnels has been, of course, being based on NATO-centric metrics. NORAD NATO. NORAD is the United States-Canada Joint Air Defense, Military Defense, where the Cheyenne Complex is. And my tunnels are inspired by the building of the Cheyenne Complex, which is also deep on the ground and is layered with cement, steel, and informations and science and technology and brains and muscles. So let's start building those 44. Do the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act. North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act, the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act, the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act, in order to build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. From the east coast to coastal ocean to ocean, the king is absent. We're going to fuse the United States in a public-private partnership manner and create this common security service and defense force only. Build those 44 tunnels based on my philosophies and make that democratic republic pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrist. And I am a pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrist who has predicted what's happening now. Loving me some of that red. And here we got to live in a sunshine pantry. I wish I could give a lot of food, financially stressed, but when I can, that's the first thing. I'm gonna give some charity. If I make $1 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion to my anonymous friend. Gonna give 50%, half to my anonymous friend. If I make $1 million, $1 trillion, $1 billion to my anonymous friend, and fill the fridge here. Fill the fridge. This is a good community fridge, and it's empty now, but sometimes it's full. So that's how we gotta get it on the full side of things, and that's how we gotta get it on the go. You know, is the community pantry, and gotta love those to get a little bit of donations. You know, it's a tough day today. Just started snow out of nowhere. It's kind of stood also, you know, like just a snowstorm. It was a storm. It was a storm. It was a storm. We got to get that storm for the building of the 44 tunnels and implement my DRT theory, which I'm now going to discuss. So the DRT theory stands for D, debt, R, refusion, T theory. The debt refusion theory is the only solution for where we are now, because both the public and the private debt have reached a record amount of public debt and private debt, both Canada and United States. So there's no other way, which we gotta be implementing. There's no other way but the implementation of my DRT, of my debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, for the creation of the universal exchange unit. So I'm going to discuss it. And why do I make that statement? I make that statement because the fact is that last year, the amount of interest which we paid on the public debt was 46.5 billion. 46.5 billion. Now think about that. A billion has 9 zeros. That is the equivalent of 46,000 million. 46,000 million. That is a huge, staggering amount of money paid on the public debt. Now, the public debt is just the interest. You can check these numbers by the Bank of Canada. My auntie Freeland resigned a few months ago, and she was so on point when she resumed the coming policies of the Trump administration. And then, you know, his Dragon versus Trump on the Canadian-US border, building that North American Imperial People's Coliseum, and that's how we got to get going with that, and that's how we got to get on that love. But nonetheless, it's something that the Trump agadministration is going to pursue aggressive economic nationalism. So Auntie Freeland, Auntie, I call her Auntie because all my family here, Quebecers, Canadians, my brothers and sisters in the 50 states as well. I don't know about that 51st state. I know the dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom for the unification of the true north, strong and free. Add some love. It's not the way to invite us with bullying and tariffs. Should have invited us. Say Trump, I made a mistake, my bad, sorry. Gonna take all the tariffs off of Canada, and we're gonna bake some pies, apple pie, cherry pie, fruit pie, shrimp pie, orange pie, lots of pies, bacon pie, sausage pie, chocolate pies, caramel pies, strudel pies, all sorts of 50 states different types of pies for eating, not the 3.1416 number in mathematics, but for eating, the edible pies. Gonna bake some pies, do some marching bands, and do some of that good rock and roll, do some marching bands, and do some dancing and some kissing. for the invitation to join. And my dream best, the Dancing Goddess Dragon Kingdom, which is to fuse Canada and United States via public-private partnership and via my trinity of theories. The CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Debt Fusion Theory, and the Democratic Fusion Theory, and to create the Security Service and Defense Legion of the North American Imperial Legion. New North American Imperial Legion. North American Imperial Legion, Canada, United States, the king is absent, time for the Republic. They're gonna fuse, do a common passport, do a census, do a common passport, do a census, a common passport, do a census, and we're gonna get it on to go. Common passport, do a census, and we're gonna fuse together and mass finance the rebuilding of the North American ghettos, the inner urban cities, the ghettos, sign an executive order for that, and raising the minimum wage and rebuilding the infrastructure via my debt fusion theory. We have to implement the DRT, debt fusion theory, the DRT, the debt fusion theory has to be implemented. So the DRT, the debt fusion theory for the creation of the UE. So here it is, the DRT, debt fusion theory. Again, we paid 46.5 billion in interest, and in 2021, the number was 20.3 billion. 20.3 billion double, that's 40.6, 40.6. 20.3 double, that's 40.6, and the number was 46.5 billion. So that number has doubled. 20.3 double, that's 40.6. 20.3 double, that's 40.6. That's what the number is. 20.3 double, that's 40.6. So the number jumped to 46.5. 46.5, 46.5. 46.5 from 20.3 times 2, that's of course double. That's of course double, that's of course double. 20.3 times 2, that's double. 20.3 times 2, that's 40.6, and it's 46.5 billion. So I just saw somebody driving when I was saying that. He saluted like military style. So yes, General Dragon, aka Cuckold. I got the smallest. I'm the greatest, biggest cuckold in the universe. I'm the greatest cuckold. I guess our president is gonna be the second after me, whoever that is, Time for the Republic, the king is absent, and we gotta get it on the XYZ, and here I gotta turn left and right, before I cross the street. We gotta get on that prudent side of things, and gotta get it for the branches. Sometimes the branches fall, so I gotta also be prudent, because you never know, man. It's quite a snow, just out of nowhere. On the 8th of April, out of nowhere, really, like a big snowstorm. Okay, before I deviate, I'm gonna discuss the DRT theory. Again, we paid last year 46.5 billion in interest. 46.5 billion in interest, that's 46,000 million. So the number was, in 2020, 2021, 20.3 double is 40.6. So what you notice is that the number has more than doubled. The number has more than doubled. The number has more than doubled. That's what happened. So the number has more than doubled. 20.3 double would have been 40.6. So the number has been 46.5 billion. 46.5 billion. That's 46,000 million. 46,000 million. 46,000 million. 46,000 million. Imagine. Now, yes, due to COVID, COVID virus, coronavirus, I had it. I don't know what caused it. I always say I died during COVID. Nothing that I will to be I'm being reborn. Nothing that I will to go back to. Besides, I moved from a very moldy place. Lots of black, whitish, greenish, reddish type of reddish, whitish, and black and green type of green, black, red, and whitish type of mold. And I moved, and that's why I remember that I got blackouts more than 9 years ago, and to live in that moldy place. And now my work, I gotta say the DRT theory has to be implemented, and is the only solution, or something very similar. So not necessarily my debt fusion theory verbatim for verbatim, but something which resembles. So something has to resemble my DRT theory, my debt fusion theory. my debt, my my debt refusion theory, DRT debt refusion theory, or something similar. There's no way out of this. The number in interest, the interest payments have more than doubled. 20.3 double would have been 40.6. The number is 46.5. You realize we're on the verge of having a black swan in the public finances of Canada. As maybe today it started when I was on this more than 4 hours and a half, close to 5 hours now, March. Probably gonna clock in 5 hours today. I'm actually gonna clock in 5 hours plus today. 5 hours plus. I gotta make up for yesterday, Monday, because I rested, so I gotta average 20 from Monday to Friday midnight. So I got until Friday midnight to get 20, because I gotta average 4 a day. So if I skip a day, I gotta do more than 4, add and get to 20. So if I do 5 today, I gotta do 5 or 6 tomorrow. If I do 6 tomorrow, then I can go back to 4, because it adds up, because I gotta get 5, 5, 5, 5. That's 20, or 5, 6, 4, 5, right? I can do more, but not less. So that's my principle, anyways, in the workout marching principles. So the debt has, the interest only on the public debt has more than doubled. The interest only on the public debt has more. The interest, that's where the problem lies, where the GDP has not doubled. The GDP has not doubled. Just consequently, think of an individual. An individual, let's say XYZ, who in 2020 paid $156 in interest, and last year the number went from 156 to 333, because 156 to 333 double is 312. So just like that, same principle is double 156 double, that's 312. So the number has to be, I'm gonna cross on the other side, turn my head left and right before I cross the street now, because you never know. Although there's a stop sign, there's no stop sign there, so I have to be prudent myself. So the point is that it's not sustainable. Just the same mathematical financial principle applies. If a citizen, how many salaries have doubled? Not more. So the citizen has to reduce the budget, the spending. The same applies with the public. Already there's been major cuts in the Immigration Canada. So what are we gonna cut? The police, RCMP, sanitation workers, those who pick up the garbage, the compost. We're gonna have to cut public services, healthcare, because the interest payments have more than doubled. The GDP has not doubled, it only increased by 1 or 2 or 3%. That's what it is with that. So basically, to what I was saying, to another point of view, is just the equivalent of some other financial individual, an individual citizen who's made the same mathematical financial principles apply from the public to the private, because in finance the same mathematical principia. So the principle is that if somebody's interest payments double while the salary does not, that individual has to reduce. That individual has to stop smoking, has to stop going out to the clubs, has to stop maybe drinking booze, maybe buying new sneakers, reducing the phone, cutting Netflix. So the expenses have to be cut and reduced. So that is just the mathematical financial principle and formulae which applies from an individual basis to the collective, which is the micro and the macro, or the public is the macro, and the macro is the public, and the micro is the individual, fellow citizens, whoever they may be. So that is just the application of the mathematical financial principle. So we have to implement the debt refusion theory. It's urgent, it's an emergency. The collapse can begin as soon as today. Tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow after 3 p.m. Then 3 p.m. and 5. There's no way out of this. Still healing. So that's what it is with the principle, you know. The debt refusion theory. The Arctic debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. The universal exchange rate. The debt refusion theory. We're going to take all the public and the private debt, including my debt, your debt, our debt, all the debt. Public and the private. My $10,000, your $10,000, your $10,000, whatever the case may be. All the public and the private debt. My $10,000, that's how much I got. Yours coast to coast, ocean to ocean. All that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to convert it into US dollars. All the public and the private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. Added with the US. And my debt refusion theory, the DRT, also in my theory is integrated monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. The Europeans, they destroyed their national central banks. They destroyed their national central banks. The Germans, the Italians, they created the ECB, European Central Banks, which serves as a multinational central bank, which issues the new currency, the euro. But they did this decades ago. It's gradually started after the Second World War until in the 90s. So it's been a while. It's been more than 2 generations now since in the 90s. Well, actually, I believe 1999 officially. We started before that, but this is electric, the line 0044 till the end per the rabble. Thelemites celebrating today first. They had a book of the law writing. Bury me with Papa Crowley, a third of me, New Jersey. A third of me, the city of the pyramids, a third of me, Monroe, which you can see from afar off. And this we go. I just want to see the pose there. So again, my debt refusion theory includes monetary integration theory, the monetary integration theory which was implemented in the European Union. And of course, the king is absent. Love to my fellow Canadians coast to coast, and my brothers and sisters North Americans in the USA as well, but the king is absent and not going to vote. He's going to pledge allegiance to fellow Canadians, 44 million Canadians and coast to coast, including 9 million Quebecers, rather than the king. The King Charles and his heirs are well off where they are. Wish them well, and I have no debt to the king. I suffered struggle here, and whatever the case may be, I suffered struggle here, and you know, that's what it is with that, but that's what it is. But whatever the case may be, so the king is absent, you know. So anyways, so back to the DRT again. You can argue all you want. It's just the mathematical financial principle makes it, of course, that we have that implementation of the tier, which we got to implement it. So we have to implement the DRT, the debt refusion theory, DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, for the creation of the universal exchange in it. That's how we got to get doing with that, and that's how we got to get on that love, their birds with that doing, and so we got to get it on the do, you know. So that's how we got to get doing, you know, and we have to implement the DRT. There's no other way. There's just no way. Now, the interest payments have more than doubled in 3 years. Yes, due to COVID, the coronavirus, of which the newly revised CIA declarations have been that COVID was more likely engineered in a laboratory, in a lab man-made, in science-made, man-made science, in a lab in China. And my trinity on COVID has been, is, and will be this. First and foremost, I do not know what caused COVID, what the primary cause of the coronavirus was. Although I believe it was snakes. So I can say I believe it was snakes. I don't know for sure. Third, I cannot rule out another possibility, whatever that possibility is. So that's my holy trinity on COVID. Fourth dimension to that trinity is what I do know. 100% before COVID. I had COVID, I almost died. I got 3 vaccines. I'm trying to keep to the best of my abilities the hygienic protocols in the public and wash and disinfect, open carry my disinfectant, and that's my holy trinity. But I cannot rule out anything else. That is, I cannot rule out another possibility like the CIA declaration was, that it's man-made, and I cannot rule that out. I cannot rule a bioweapon either. I cannot rule a bioweapon or terrorist weapon, terrorist engineered weapon. I cannot rule out a terrorist engineered weapon, but what I can say, of course, is that I had it, and I thought it was snakes to human beings, but I cannot rule out another possibility. So what I do know is I had it, I survived it, and got triple vaxxed, and my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, is the way to go for the future. It's an emergency, have to be implemented ASAP, if not something that resembles my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. So it also integrates the monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory, which of course the monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, the creation of the euro. So of course we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my 10,000 euro coast to coast, all that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. That's what it is with that. And all that debt, going to convert it into US dollars, add it with the US, all that money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. All that money is going to be the money for a new central bank. So we're going to create the UE, U.universal, E.exchange, U.unit, U.universal, E.exchange, U.unit, the UE, U.universal, E.exchange, U.unit. The universal exchange unit is going to have the same value as the US dollar, as the United States dollar. And we're going to create all the public-private debt is going to be the initial money supply. We're going to be rebuilding the infrastructure with that money, rebuilding the aqueducts, the sewers, construct those 44 mass tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, stack them with cans of food that can be having shelf life of more than 3.5 years, more than 5 years, more than 7 years, more than 11 years, more than 22, more than 44 years. Create that, build those 44 tunnels, and create a mass finance citizens fitness activity, mass finance sports and recreation activity, mass finance the building of the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border for sportists in perpetuities, with the first event is going to be Dragon versus Trump. Look at this beautiful evergreen, so small I am compared to this beautiful evergreen, 7 times my size. And we're going to mass finance citizens fitness, mass finance North American tourism, because it did me lots of good when I established the strongest spirit accord with my fellow Canadian North American family when I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017. That event changed my whole life. I got out of being depressed, being suicidal. I was depressed, I was suicidal, I was depressed, suicidal, depressed, and that's what I gotta get doing. I was depressed, suicidal, and cross Canada coast to coast, got those tickets, auctioning those tickets for $1 million, $1 million. Therefore, because I went with a friend, and auctioning those tickets, $1 million each, $1 million each, to give half. 50% to my anonymous friend, and start building the first bricks of the Forgotten Goddess Judy DSS. Forgotten Goddess doesn't need my tiny speck, piece of dust that I am useless. I'm a nobody, but I still will to build that Forgotten Goddess temple. But she has the pyramids, She has the pyramids, their temples and tombs, as my Papa Bertarabo Crowley, who's buried in New Jersey, Hampton, revealed Holy Sacred Book of the Law, keep my name out of your mouth, rebirthing Adrian Hana Dragon, if it's not for blessing, the DRT, debt refusion tree. We're going to create the UE, mass finance tourism, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance, the Dragon Army, North American Integrated Defense, Security and Service Legion, North American Integrated SSD, Principal Security Service and Defense to be only the Dragon Army, aka North American Imperial Security Service and Defense Legion, North American Integrated Security and Service Imperial Legion, the North American Security and Service Imperial Legion, for the SSD Security Service and Defense, for the SSD Security Service and Defense, for the Collective North American Civilizational Complex, and we're gonna mass finance the rebuilding of the North American ghettos, the North American ghettos, the North American ghettos. The North American ghettos, the North American ghettos. I got something in my eye. The North American ghettos, the North American inner urban cities. Gonna be rebuilding them, and I gotta watch for the puddle there, as I get splashed with a little bit of water. Gonna go by the other side. Gotta go get it on that other side, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the love, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing, you know. It's something which I gotta be implementing, the DRT, that refusion theory. There's no other way, brothers and sisters. You can argue all you want, but that is the solution. There's just no way out of this situation. Paradoxically, oh, I've been cursed. I live with scars, retrograde amnesia, memory loss. Sometimes it comes back with another trauma. Sometimes you get trauma, you lose memory, or I don't know if I did lots of drugs as a youth, or I don't do drugs, anything like that. Once in a while, legal cannabis. I like my fitness, have my routine. Aspie is where our brains are different. So we have a routine, you know. We just can be tough in the social communication manner, but we lack skills, you know. We lack skills in the social communication, and we tend to breach personal space because those things we have no awareness about, you know. It's not that we're not aware, we have to constantly work it. It requires lots of effort because our brains, an Aspie brain is why it's made different. So being that our brains are different, Aspies, we can be very difficult to manage certain social circumstances, and we have to be told more directly, and we can be pretty direct and abrasive. We can seem pretty direct and abrasive in our speech and manner, or sometimes we require a little bit of the directness to be alert, and that's so we got to be on the alert side of things. And I am hyper vigilant because I live being attacked by surprise attack. I lived a few times, and major one and a few ones, but I survived. I live with my scars, and sing that rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, construction workers, plumbers, and the electricians, the construction workers, the daycare workers, changing some diapers. That'll be a new protocol before you put on a uniform for defense, to change some diapers in the daycares, eh? It's not all about Wall Street, give some charity. And I believe the stock market crash actually began. It was 3 days basically red. That is qualified. 3 days of red like that qualifies as a stock market crash. I guess it's past the correction, and if it still goes down, it's possible because there's China and the United States, the pillar. So I'm gonna have to do some coffee with dragon sessions on just that. And my prediction, which is unfolding in the past 44 months, that I have predicted it in 2019, and we have to implement the DRT. We have to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative public-private partnership institutions of my dream, the kingdom, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the DGA dancing goddess army, the North American Integrated Dance League for environmental education and purpose, to plant more trees and do environmental cleaning, and plant more trees and do environmental cleaning, and do dragon army, North American Imperial SSD Security and Service and Defense Force, North American Imperial SSD Force, the North American Imperial SSD Force, the North American Imperial SSD Force, the North American Imperial SSD Security Service and Defense, the North American Imperial People's Security and Service and Defense Force, aka the Dragon Army, and mass finance my workout training program system, mass finance the Dragon Army, mass finance the building of those 44 tunnels, and of course get that North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act to allow the incarcerated brothers and sisters who lost their freedom and liberty, put down some work for those 44 across Canada, United States joint. And as I sing, for my brothers and sisters, boys and girls in blue, that little rock and roll, ain't nobody perfect, that includes that me and you. Got somebody got a rock and roll for the boys and girls in blue. Ain't nobody perfect, that includes that me and you. So much I got a rock and roll for the brothers and sisters, North Americans, Canada, United States, North Canada, South United States, who do their criminal rehabilitation. I got a rock and roll for them also who do your criminal rehabilitation, and everybody's their second, third chances, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, and that's how we gotta get doing on the love, So it's something which we gotta be on the love side of things, that something which we gotta be transparent, and sometimes we got racism, and my brothers and sisters who are black, 13.3, 13.4%, including my neighbors. We gotta work together and here to establish and ensure freedom and get some regeneration, rebirth, and sometimes we gotta work on the racism with action, and all who come to join us here in the new collective, the new North American, the kingdom, whatever, from wherever, to become my family, but whatever the case may be, black, white, or whatever the case may be, because sometimes, we have inner subconscious, and, with my Asperger's also, I've lived, lost employment. There's very high unemployment rate for Aspies. The unemployment rate for Aspies is very high, although some Aspies are successful in certain fields and tend to have some excellent and excess and above average and very good qualities when it comes to certain things, but in other things we lack, where I don't like to use the word disability. It's less able in social circumstances, and can be less able less able in certain manners of society, for example, personal space. An Aspie might come to 2 inches, 3 inches, so close to the face that the person might get intimidated. It's just a characteristics, because Asperger's is not symptoms, it's just characteristics of Asperger's, which I have to work constantly on, and that's what I gotta do, constantly work on my neurodivergence, and that's how we gotta get doing on the XYZ, so work on the love and work on the rehabilitation, and always build bridges with my fellow neurotypicals, which neurotypicals you are, 99.56%, 99.56, 99.56, and I'm less than Aspies were less than 1 percentile, less than half of a percent, less than 0.44, so less than 0.44, so not a lot of people have Asperger's. It's not a common neurodivergent mental condition, which again, it's not a mental illness, it's just that we are, and myself and many Aspies, where our brains are different, so our brains are different, so we have to be aware of that fact, and I always have to build bridges, and sometimes it requires some effort, and sometimes I lack in certain things, lack in those things, and lack in certain areas of the social nature, but not when it comes to geopolitics, and I am quite a master at geopolitics, and of course I'm not the best, but I am the best among the best in my kingdom, my realm, which is geopolitics, and that's something which have to be marked on and have to be marked on the go. That is something which I have to be mindful of that myself, it's a constant thing to build bridges. But I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I have proof of work, and I have proof of my prediction, proof of what I'm saying, and I predicted it back in 2019 in October, November, and that's what I predicted, and checking on that Canadian flag, and that's why I gotta get rock and roll with the know strong and free, to get it on that love side of things, and we gotta get on those red, my favorite color for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all involved in the production, distribution of food. I gotta sing that rock and roll, and gonna switch it a little bit to that French, French on the French side, and that's how we gotta be on the trajectory, and we gotta be communicating, and we gotta be loving. And I always like to do that matchmaking and pledge your allegiance. Allegiance is the song, you know. Pledge your allegiance. Allegiance is the song, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. That's how we gotta get rolling, you know. Something which we gotta get on that rock and roll, you know. There's a snowstorm is beginning again, you know. Gotta get on that beginning and of the snowstorm again, and here we got it on the love, you know, to get it on the birds and firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, and grocery store clerks. And wow, look at this beautiful tree. Snowstorm in April. You just gotta see beautiful snow on the evergreen. April that you see. For to know you for to be, for the love and for the sea. Aqueducts, public workers on the trucks, public workers on the docks, public workers on the lots, public workers on the spots, public workers on the bucks, public workers on the lots, public workers on the frocks. Frocks on left or right you see, so that you be. On the left or right you kiss. On the chick you know you this. Rock and roll you know we say. On that rainbow every day. For you know we slay the hay. On the rainbow that's the day. That's the day you know they pray. On the sleigh you know they say. On the left and right and butch. On the left and right and look. Snowstorm starting once again. And they got shook. And they got shake. And they got another wake. And they got another sick. For the goodness strike. For the goodness bake. For the goodness lake. So you know we gotta bake. So you know we gotta shake. So you know we cannot fake. So you know we cannot rate. So you know we that irate. So you know that's the way to go. For the left or right a rainbow. For the holiday you know. On the do and on the go. For the left or right you sow. And the harmony. Up in the rock and the roll, up in the hit and on the go, up in the hit and on the snow, hit it on the blow, hit it on you know, hit it on the dough, hit it on the low. Hey, you know, we got the snow on the rainbow, gotta see it, that's the snow. Say hello, we in the Montreal, you know, so we gotta sing it out the snow. We gotta flavor up, you go. We gotta flavor up, you know. We gotta flavor it up, so you know sup. We gotta quack, we gotta duck, we gotta quack, we gotta duck. And you know we gotta dick, and you know we gotta talk, and you know we gotta say, and you know we gotta slay. Every day on the prey.